I'm Raquel, and I'm Frontend Engineer at Tinybird, a serverless analytical backend for developers. And I'm going to show you how 3 engineers, including myself, built an extensible, a privacy-friendly and scalable alternative for Google Analytics in just 3 weeks, with Next.js, Vercel Edge functions, and Tinybird. And why does the world need another web analytics solution? Aren't there plenty of alternatives out there? Yes, but we saw an opportunity to do something unique, and here's why. First, because of GDPR compliance. Some countries have been ruling against the use of Google Analytics because GDPR violations. Companies are looking for alternatives. Then, because the data access. We wanted to provide users with full control of their data. With other alternatives, you get easy analytics, but there is little else you can do with the data you collect. And third, because scalability and extensibility. We also wanted to ensure it could scale to any amount of data without losing the ability to extend the functionality for other use cases. And that's why we made it open source. And without having to worry about the performance or infrastructure, scale to the infinity and beyond. But before I explain you how we did it, let me show you a quick demo. First, from the Web Analytics Starter Kit page, you have to click on Deploy Project button. And if you don't have any Tinybird account, you have to create it first, that it's free. And once the workspace creation model appears, you have to select the Web Analytics Starter Kit template and create the workspace. And once the workspace is created, you have to copy and paste the snippet for collecting the events in your preferred website. And then, once you have done it, you have to open the dashboard that we developed with Next.js with the token provided from Tinybird. And boom, metrics appearing. And now, this is how we did it. We needed a simple script to capture anonymized events from the website. And we created one that you can simply drop in your page and automatically track page visits along with a JSON object containing relevant information like the timestamp, the user agent, the referrer, the path name, or the full URL. And then to determine the user location by avoiding using API addresses, the snippet extracts city and country from user's browser, time zone, and local information. And we also create a random session ID so that we can later use it to measure things like number of visits or session duration, but without tying it to any personal user information. And we also support the creation of custom events, but let me talk about this later. And all this is sent using the NDJSON Tinybird Events API, but also more about this later. So while you can send the events directly to Tinybird, we also wanted to ensure that users could also choose to send the events to their own domain. But instead of writing our own backend that users would have to deploy and manage, we decided to use Vercel Edge middleware. So we created this tracking edge function that receives the event from the snippet and posts them onwards to the Tinybird Events API. And this introduces the ability to deploy at a scale through Vercel's serverless edge infrastructure. And we also added a deploy button in the README of the repo that makes it a breeze to deploy to Vercel. Tinybird provides an easy way to capture events data through an HTTP endpoint, the Events API. The data sent to it is immediately stored in a data source that you can query with very low latency. And then you can simply define the metrics you want with SQL and publish the results as low latency APIs with a single click. For instance, these are the API endpoints the starter kit automatically generates for the dashboard to consume and display the results. And the documentation for these endpoints is automatically generated, and this is a page that you can share with your dev team for them to build additional functionalities in Tinybird flavor or as an open API endpoint. And this one, in particular, Top Pages, returns the top most visited pages based on a page hit event. And as you can see, it accepts a few parameters like date from or date to establish the time range, but also skip and limit, that is for pagination. And let's see how it was built. And as you can see here, the top pages endpoint is simply an SQL query that aggregates the unique number of visitors and the total number of hits for every given path of your website. And you can also see here the templated system, which enables us to both define parameters that will alter the result of the query and document them as part of the development process. So the starter kit we created contains a Tinybird project with all the SQL queries and data source schemas required to capture and exploit events data at scale. And also we added a deploy button to the GitHub README that will create a workspace in Tinybird and deploy the data project to ensure it is ready to collect and visualize. It's basically a one-click deployment. We wanted to create a simple dashboard that could display these real-time analytics, and it had to be built with extensible and well-known libraries so people could easily customize it. Next.js gave us a reliable and popular React framework so we could deploy and optimize a production-ready bundler for this dashboard in such a short time. And some interesting things that we wanted to highlight of this project are, for example, that we encapsulated all the different parts of the UI into different components. And we created a widget component to use it for all the existing sections that we will use to display all the metrics. We used SWR hook for fetching all the data. It implements a caching validation strategy that returns the data from cache, then sends the fetch request, and finally returns with the up-to-date data. And another interesting thing is how the app first loads the skeleton of the page with a placeholder with the widgets will be, and then it only loads the widgets if needed, if they are in the viewport. And we use React intersection observer and the next dynamic feature for implement it. It was also really easy to add Taiwan to the Next.js project, and with that, people could easily personalize the design of the dashboard. And finally, we deployed this project using Vercel at analytics.tinybird.co. But the idea was to give the users the ability to fork this project and implement their own version of the dashboard on their domains. With what I've shown you today, which we built in few days, users have a one-click deployment of a privacy-first web analytics alternative to Google Analytics, which is pretty awesome. But the really amazing thing is that the kit is just the beginning. You can extend the functionality as much as you want. And let's see, for instance, how we can track additional events. And using Vercel's e-commerce starter kit as an example, we will add an event that will track what articles and keywords users search for. And by simply adding a tracking event like this one, every time a user performs a search, an event will be sent to Tinybird with the timestamp and the search form. And once I deploy to production and searches start coming, the events get immediately reflected in the events data source. And let's explore the data with some SQL. And to transform this data into relevant metrics, let's now build a query that shows us top searches. And if we now turn this into an endpoint, we can immediately exploit it in our application. And this is how we build our analytics kit. Completely extensible and customizable using Tinybird as backend, Next.js as a front-end framework, and Vercel Edge for our middleware. And it's designed for real-time insights at any scale. We launched this project just 5 weeks ago, and already over 120 websites have deployed it. And it's very interesting to see how Tinybird users are customizing and even helping us improve the open source project. If you would like to use or contribute to the project, please feel free to forward this repo or submit a pull request, or just start tracking your own website analytics today. You can easily deploy the dashboard yourself. Either way, let us know what do you think. Thanks for listening to my talk and have a great day.